I forgot to, so I'm glad you reminded me. Okay, I guess it's recording. Anyway, so let's start with an assignment, the most simple way of doing this, and I'm simply going to create an assignment. Now, I know yours may look differently. Most people, it says add a resource, add activity. For some reason, I have two separate ones. We've never been able to figure out why, so I'm not even going to try to figure it out. It's very weird. I think I'm grandfathered in or something from years ago. So I'm just going to create an assignment. I'll call it assignment 4, whatever. And here's the key to create the grading guide. I scroll down to grade, and there's two things I have to do. One is I have to say grading guide, obviously, because we're not using simple grading or a rubric. This is kind of between the two. And then I have to make sure that my maximum grade is what I want. Now, normally in Moodle, I just put 100 for everything because students know what 100 means. But because I'm giving points out for this category and this category and this category, this is important that I make sure the grade works. I'm just choosing 30. You can choose any grade that you want. This is going to be a ridiculously simple one just to show you. I have also begun to use this for SLOs. I put in my grading guide, you have, I write it out a little more, but you have addressed SLO 4 or something like that. So we start here by defining a new one. If you have created one, you can use a template, but we don't have one. So let's start with this. And I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say grade for assignment. Whoops. Grade for assignment 4 or 5. I can give it a description. And here's where everything is done. I'm going to give it a name. So again, I'm really just going to have it simple. My ones that I create do not look this dumb. This looks terrible. So what do the students see? They see use proper organization. I don't even know what that means really. And then this tells me what to do. I'm going to say, did they use proper organization? Whatever. And then I have to give the points. Now, remember I chose 30, so I'm going to have 3 categories of 10. They don't have to be the same. I could have 5, I could have 100, whatever. I'm going to add another one. I'm going to say grammar, and I'm going to spell it right. Did you use grammar? That's not even correct. Dr. Desert, don't yell at me for writing that poorly. Description for graders, did they use grammar? That's awful. I feel guilty. And 10 points. We'll do one more. I'm going to say what, spelling, or maybe I'll do SLO. SLO number 2. Addressed SLO number 2. Did you address number 2? And maximum score is 10. So I have a terrible grading guide right now, but that just shows you how simple it is. I could add as many criterion as I want. And this is cool. This is what I really like because it'll help you with grading. The frequently used comments. Now there's a little quirk I have to show you, but let's just do this. Let's say there's comments I use a lot. Turnitin has something like this, but I find Turnitin kind of complicated to do this. I'm going to say nice. I'll add another one. Lousy. I'll add another one. I cried. It was so great. Spell it wrong. And I'm going to say wonderful. You can have as much as you want here. I have 4 frequently used comments that I write that I use a lot. And now I'm going to save it. And for my assignment that I just created, I now have my little rubric. So I'm going to go outside my class now. I already created one with fake students who submitted things. And I want to show you, first, I want to show you what they see when they submit. So let me find a fake student here. We'll go to this person. And I'll log in as Han Solo. And when Han wants to submit the assignment that has a grading guide, before they can submit, they see the grading guide. So right now, before they submit down here, they know exactly what the points are. If I was a lot more verbose here, which I certainly should have been, they would know exactly what to do. No student should turn something in and say, I didn't know you counted for that. Well, it's right here. So let me get out of being Han Solo. We'll go back to being me. And I want to grade now. So I go to the assignment. Let me move this over a little bit so you could see. And I'm going to view the submissions. I already had a fake student submit one here. So this person submitted, and you'll see on the right, let me move again here. My grading guide is showing up. So here is, I just grabbed something from my desktop. It's my car, working on my car. And you'll see now the grading guide is here, 10 points for organization, 10 points for grammar, and this was the SLO. And I can write in here if I want. I can also insert the frequently used comment. And here's the weird little catch that I told you about. There's something weird going on, which we are working, Erica is actually working to repair. It's a font color problem. You'll see you don't see any frequently used comments, but if you hover, they are, oops, sorry. If you hover, someone wants to sell me my car warranty again on my phone. If you hover, you'll see that they're here. We're pretty clearly the font color before it's hovered on is white, and so is the background. So we're hoping to fix this, but if you just kind of know which these are, it's not a big deal. So if I can do that and you see it shows up. You could have 20 of these comments and just go click, 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 and it will be a lot easier. I used to feel guilty about writing the same thing for students, and I finally realized, why would I type, "This is a wonderful essay," or whatever, each time if I'm saying the same thing? So I had to kind of get over that a little bit. I also had to get over using rubrics or grading guides too, because I always thought they were kind of a little fussy or silly, but I really kind of have grown. I've come into the 20th century finally. I kind of like them a lot. So you add them up. We got a 10 for this, a 5 for this, and all my comments that I make. And just like before, I can still add other comments for the whole thing. I'm going to save the changes. And now I will see that this student got the grade of 25 right here. It's the same thing. And then when they look, they're going to see all of my comments. I think this is an easy, simple way. Once you set it up, I could use it for each assignment, just change things around, and then I'm good to go. And like everything with Moodle, once it's in your class, once it's done, it goes from class to class. And I think it's very helpful.
John,
yes.
when we grade in this, like when someone submits something, I want to like actually type within their text and give them feedback about what they wrote, but I can't. I can't do that from that frame. I have to download it, right? And then give those comments and then upload it again, right?
Well, you can. That's what I do because it's easy and I'm used to Word. But there are these things up here allow you to. You can highlight things like this.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily have to download it. I can use those items.
You can, but I have tried to use this. I don't find this as helpful as downloading it and then submitting it here for the feedback file. But maybe that's just me. I have always found these a bit awkward. I hate to say this, the Turnitin way of doing it is a lot easier. If you use it's called Grader, what's it called in Turnitin? Grader report or something. It's actually pretty easy, but you can use these. You can do things like that, and you can add comments, like comments here and stuff. So that will work. And then once you hit save, the student will see it as well. But so your call on that one. I just find this a little incomplete for me. But again, I could just type something in there and then they'll see it. Actually, that's not so bad. Maybe that isn't terrible. Any questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, they have to press, it's just when you text it, when you type it into the text, they don't have to press the button to see it. And then they're more like.
That's true. That's true. I guess then we're trying to make sure that they see it. So that's a good point. So that is the grading guide. Like I said, I'm sold on it and I really use it a lot. Okay, now this is another thing. Oh, and by the way, if you forgot something, yes, Maria.
Oh, since I was just wondering, since you have you can access a student, can you just show us what is their process if you've commented the way you just did in line on their document? What does it look like for them to then see that feedback?
Sure.
Oh, how hard it is for them.
Yeah, let me log in as the student, and then we'll open up what I just did, which was rubbish, but still. Where's the assignment?
I've never logged in as a student before.
Let's see. Oh, here we go. Here's what they see on there. And where is the document that they will see? Did I save it? I don't know if I saved that when I made all sorts of comments on it. I don't think I saved it. It should be
I
here.
don't think you did, John.
No, I didn't. I should have done that. Let me just real quick do that because I don't know what that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. So let me do it really quickly. And we'll go back to that student. And we'll just, oh, it is here. I did save it. How about that?
Yeah, I think what it does actually is if you do stuff like the annotations, it'll save your draft even if you haven't submitted it for the student to see yet.
So yeah, I don't know how to make it visible now that you mention that.
Let me get into your course, John. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, it's a good question.
When I don't like using the annotation tool in the
Yeah.
assignment.
Yeah.
The idea is good. That Venko Hall and Moodle has it, but I prefer annotating directly in Microsoft Word. Maybe
Me
I'm
too.
old school like that.
And then when you do those annotations in Microsoft Word, do you upload that as a, like you can, when you're grading, you can like upload files. Like I can just upload that file. Is that, because I'm always doing these revisions for students and I send them to them and then I just never know if they look at them. So I just want the like easiest way for them to get and look at that feedback.
Well, I mean, I guess that comes back to the point of once we do our due diligence, will they do what we ask them to do? I don't really know. If they're not going to open up the file and read everything, I'm not sure what else we can do, unfortunately.
If you keep scrolling, sorry for interrupting, John.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. It did show up. Maybe I didn't do it right. So right now the student can see it exactly what I wrote. But again, I mean, Maria's point, they still have to open it. Yeah, there it is. So actually, they can see it.
If you click right on that View Annotate PDF button, it'll open up in screen for them.
Oh, there we go. Even better.
I'm also clicking around.
Yep, that's perfect. Actually, it's a good question. I just knew they could. I didn't know how it looked to them. So that's a very good question. All right. Let me go back now to my course, and I'd like to show you, I have to go to my other course, the real course, the fall course, because oh no, you know what? I don't have to do that. I want to show you the whole forum grading. If you ever tried to grade the forum in the past, we had that ratings system where you graded a post and then you had to figure out, wait, is this the person's first post? Is it a reply? What if they have more than 2 replies? Which one do I grade? And then you have to decide, do I add up all my grades? Do I take the highest one? Do I take an average? It was really difficult. So this really fixes all of that because you see all of the students' grades in one place. So here's a chapter discussion, and I had some fake students submit things. So as the instructor, I see, just so what everyone sees, the folks who submitted, and I just go to grade users. And what it does is it shows me each student's work, all just by itself. I could look at it in context, if it wants to show me. Okay.
I've had some trouble this morning with Venko Hall loading a little bit slowly.
Yeah.
Same.
Ironically, I just ran through this morning and oh, there we go. Okay. Now here's one quirk. Remember I said there was a quirk in the grading guide about the font on white on white. Here's the quirk currently for whole forum grading. It shows people who do not post. It shows me as the instructor. It also shows students who are no longer in the class. On your participants roster, it says suspended. The student was in the class and then they were not in the class anymore. So you will still see them here. Which is a weird thing, and I've complained to Moodle headquarters, and I understand it's going to be fixed in the next edition. Eric, I don't know if you've heard the same thing, but that's what I was told in the forums. But,
yeah, Yep, that's something we are working on. So after the upgrade in May, there won't be any issues with this grading method.
Yeah.
And there isn't now with the points. It's just if you use a rubric.
Yeah. So here is Darth Maul had these two discussions, and I can look at them and I say, okay, they fit what I really want. And I'm grading on a 5-point scale. You can do other scales. You can do pass fail. You can also do out of 100. You can do whatever you like. I just choose out of 5 because when I add them all up, it comes to the amount I want in my class. I can see everything they wrote. I can also see that this was the initial post because I always know a reply has the RE in front of it here. So I could see the initial post. I could see reply. They did exactly what I wanted them to do. I give them a grade. And yes, I want them to see it. So I'm going to click on that and I go to the next one. And the next one is the student. Oh, they certainly did have an initial post. They didn't do a reply. So I'm going to give them a 3 or whatever. And then I have another student who is kind of a jerk and they just wrote that they hate the class, even though the instructor is wonderful. So I'll give them a point for that, but I really shouldn't. I'm now done. I did 4 out of 4. I'm going to save it. And now the students are given the notification and I'm done. And if I go to my grade setup, which is right here, you'll see that all of my discussion posts all are 5 out of 5, and they all add up in my way of grading to 25, 1/4 of the grades for the class. And students always know how they're doing at any time because on Monday, and I tell them this, the week goes from Monday to Sunday, and on Monday morning I do the grading for the posts, and then I don't have to look at it again. It's all done. Now, yes, please.
What if you wanted to comment back on the student's post?
Let me go back. This is a little slow. Oops, I'm in the wrong class, that's why. Here we go. I do not here have the ability to do comments. I can only give the grade. So if I do comments, it's going to have to be in a reply probably to this. But that's a good point, that there's no like text box here to discuss how they did. This is really just a point system.
Okay.
No, that's a good question though. In my courses, I tend to reply to everything, which sometimes gets a bit onerous, but that's how I tell the students how they're doing pretty much. And sometimes I'll reply by text or email, I should say, if maybe they're really off base privately, but this is pretty much just for grading. That's a good question.
Okay,
Yeah.
I noticed that this semester, there was where you could reply to a student's post and only that student sees it.
Yes, I was just going to bring that up, Lynn. That's a great tool. You can reply privately to a student's post. So if they are terribly missing the mark, you don't have to blast it out to everybody. If you click on reply there, John, I think it's a checkbox.
Ah, that is an excellent point. Yes, that's a great way of doing it. Because
I had to use it this semester a couple of times.
Because you wanted to address like something they were maybe not doing well, or?
She answered my question. She answered it okay, but she went off of where she should have been. So I just used it as a redirection tool.
That's great. That's excellent. Yeah, that's a very good way of doing it. So it is an extra step, but I think as you're going through the week of reading forum posts, this will let you address it immediately without waiting for the grading to be done. That's a great point. Okay, we have a few more minutes, and I want to quickly show you the third thing, and this has to do with how we do grading. And there's a not new, but new to me as I'm learning it, way of doing grading. Now, this is what I've been pushing for years. If you've ever heard me talk about the grade book, I'm the broken record. My essays are worth 50% of my course. My participation is worth 1/4, and then I have a final worth 1/4 here. I simplified this, by the way. This is not the way it is. If I only use 10 essays, it doesn't matter. It's still 50% of the grade. I could add 5 more. It doesn't matter. Still 50% of the grade. In my classes, students do 9 of the 14. I can make it 3 of the 14. It's always 50%. And that's why I like using percentages. However, many faculty, like to use points. everything has a point value. And in that way, it's really easy to see the weighting. If something is 200 points and something is 100 points, you clearly know the weight is twice of the other one. So here is what it can look like. Let me show you in my course here. If you use points, and it's going to look crazy, but give me a moment. Like this looks nuts. Oh my God, the essays are worth 87%, and the participation's only 4.8%. Why is that? Well, it is like that because if you add all of these up, there's 14. So it's 1,400 out of whatever the total is, out of 1,600. Clearly, it's 80%. So I would, and these are only 5 points. So these are an essay is worth 20 times what the forum post is. So if I decide to use points, I'm going to have to make sure that the points are what I want them to do. Maybe I'll make each essay 10 instead of 100 because I'm adding up all the points. And here is what it can look like once it's done. Whoops, once it's done correctly. Let me see if I can make this bigger. This is a course that I was working on with a faculty member, and I took this screenshot, and you'll see that the max grade is different for all of these. They like to be very, very specific. So all of the assignments equal 236, all of the performances equal 115, and participation is worth 20. There's also some extra credit here, which is always problematic. I'm not going to worry about that right now. So what this faculty member has done is they've decided to use weighting instead of, like I do, 50% for this, 20% for that. They've decided to just make all of the individual grade items weight in relation to each other. So this last performance is clearly worth a lot less than the other ones. This 75% essay, 75 point essay is worth, almost a half as much as this one. And then Moodle automatically puts the course total as everything here added up. It's just the sum of the numbers here. Now, this can be really helpful if you like to use points. And I know that there are some faculty who I've sort of dragged over to using percentages. And now I'm going to politely go back and say, hey, remember I made you do that? If you want to try points again, I think we can make it work. I think it's simple. And Moodle HQ is pushing it. They eventually may get rid of some of the weird aggregations like the weighted and the simple weighted, all that stuff. They really want us just to use natural. And I have become a reluctant believer in it. I may go back to my course and change all of these grades and just have it. One reason is because I think students can tell how they're doing on a point system just as easily as a percentage, maybe even easier. If they see how many points they should have and how many they have done, maybe that's even easier for students to see. I've always been a believer that students always see everything out of 100, but maybe this is better. So if you have your gradebook set up and you like it and it works and you're happy, ignore everything I just said for the past few minutes. If on the other hand, you think points work and you want to add different things, you want to change points, I'd be happy to work with you. And what we can do is we can take a copy of your class, put it in the sandbox. So if we ruin it, it doesn't matter. And we can see if you like the way it looks, and just drop me a line in the help ticket anytime and tell me what course, and we'll work on it to see if you like this better. I'm becoming a believer. How about that, Erica? 10:28 and even time for questions.
Yeah, and for those of you who are going through the instructional design and teaching course, after this is just another half hour of office hour, so which is not mandatory or anything. So if John wants to stick around to answer questions, we've got time.
I'd be happy to, and not even about this, anything else. And even after you unzoom, if you think of something, drop us a line. Happy to help anybody.
John, you said this is the point system?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You'll see that it automatically, the sum is automatically of everything here.
Okay.
So again, I thought it was complicated when I first looked at it, and I said, this is crazy. Who's going to want to use this? Again, because I'm 50. That's how I look at anything new. So once I really gave it a look, I realized it's utterly simple. And maybe for students, maybe grading simply has some advantages. I don't ever want to hear I didn't know I was doing, even though I don't believe it often. This cuts down on that, perhaps. I don't know.
I'm trying to imagine students saying, I don't understand how, what does 26 points mean or something.
I think sometimes we overthink. I think students do know how they're doing, maybe not exactly, but maybe I'm wrong. I always did. In college, I always knew how, and I even would do it by hand because there wasn't any of this. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong, John, because in college, nobody ever had to tell me what my grade was. I knew before the teacher. I get my stuff back and I've already got my spreadsheet out working on this is what I have here. But students that we seem to have today don't have those capabilities. You have to.
I would second that. Like, they don't know how to do percentages at all or how percentages work. Because I had a student who I use a weighted version like you do. And so his grade overall was like an 80. And then he turned in an assignment in a category where he had 100%. And then he turned in another assignment in that same category that was only an 80. And he didn't understand why his overall course grade went down, but it was because that category went down. So now he was at a 78 and he was just totally flummoxed. And I think he felt like it was really unfair that he had gotten an 80 on the assignment, but it brought his overall course grade down.
I think that's happening more and more.
Yeah. One of the other things that's hard with that, and I've noticed this happening just really only over the last year, with faculty being flexible with like turning late work in, for example, is if a student doesn't turn something in and you don't go into the gradebook and manually give them the 0, the gradebook doesn't calculate that assignment. So like if a student had a 0 there and it got replaced with an 80, their grade would probably go up. But if it was just something they hadn't done and then did the final week of classes or whatever, and they don't do as well, 80 is not bad by any means, but it'll make the grade go down. And so I think that's a little hard. And I was in a session, one of the Spark sessions, and about assessment, and a few people had mentioned that it seemed like their students weren't able to do the sort of basic arithmetic for figuring out what their grades are, which kind of stinks. So hopefully they learn. Maybe they're just, everybody's stressed this year. But I've heard that too, that students just don't fully understand the math that goes into grading, which can be a struggle.
And maybe points addresses that in the future. If somebody wants to use it, there's no calculation. It's right there. I have 86 points out of 104 that I can have, or whatever. I don't know, maybe. My daughter uses Teams at her school, which is not designed for work for this. I mean, Moodle is designed for this, Teams is not. And there's a list of her grades. And there are some that say nothing out of 10. It just is blank. And I asked her, is that added in? She's like, I don't know. I said, this says test. Is it weighted more? She says, I don't know. And I think it's because it's just foreign to them. Maybe we take it for granted that we understand this stuff. Maybe, I mean, she's 13, that's a big difference, but that's what I looked at when I saw it. And so I couldn't calculate a grade really. Maybe our students do the same thing. I don't know.
Can we go back to that weighted screen?
Sure. Let me find it. This is my current course. I haven't changed it yet. And this is how I have done everything. 50% are the essays, 25% are the forums, and 25% is the final.
See, I like to do this way because I can't guarantee you're going to have 15 discussion questions in a semester. I use a lot of current events. And if the news isn't popping, at that particular time, you may or may not have a discussion question that week. So I don't know if I'm going to have 10 in a semester or 15 in a semester.
Then points wouldn't really work for you then.
That's what I wanted to know. Is there any way for points to say, okay, this is, we'll do it the same way. So it doesn't matter how many you have, or do I always have to have a certain amount and just come up with some fake questions to keep them busy?
Well, I mean, that could work. That seems like a bit of a bodge for you to have to deal with. But yeah, if you're using points, they add up. It's 100%. You know, so if you don't give them a question, then I guess essentially everyone's losing that number of points. So
Okay.
it does seem like, Lynn, that percentages may work better for you.
Yeah.
So I may need to keep looking at that weighted percentages.
Yep.
Yeah, I would, and I don't think either way is better or worse than the other. I said this in the just this morning to somebody that there's best practices and standards for everything, but there's also no one size fits all application because what you're teaching is different, right? The content, the way you carry out your courses, the way
Yeah.
stuff is organized. So
Yeah, I've noticed that vet sci courses often use points, and they prefer points, which is just works for them. Yeah.
I found as I'm doing this semester remote for my class, I may not have as many quizzes as I usually do, and I kind of do it based on like the pulse of the class. So, you know, I can add a quiz or I can take one away. So I think the percentage, like Lynn was saying, kind of works for the flexible kind of thing that you're going through.
Yeah, and you know, we don't do this. I guess we can do this, but you know, pop quizzes when the students come into class. That's again different points. Then that may not really work. Maybe percentages work better. Yeah. Any other questions, folks? I appreciate you spending a little time here. And as always, if you need help with anything, we're happy to help about any aspect of this or other things.
I have a question, but I'll let if someone else has something first. But I do
I just wanted to say I will be seeing you on the help desk ticket.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try and set up one with the percentages and see how it goes.
Let's do it anytime. Happy to help. Yes, Bridget.
So John, my question is, we haven't in the pre-licensure program for our care plans and short assignments, we haven't really used the Turnitin.
Yeah.
Now for the 4-week class that Erica that is running for us, you know, we added a Turnitin in our sandbox and stuff.
Yeah.
I did have an episode, 2 episodes this past fall where students handed in work, literally 2 students handed in the same exact work. And I'm just thinking maybe I want to add the Turnitin to our pre-licensure care plan.
Yep.
But I have a couple questions about that. One of them is, when you do a nursing care plan, they do have a tendency to lift things out of books. And we've never really, because they're short little sentences of rationale. That would probably be a problem, right?
Do you allow them to do that?
We haven't. I mean, they've cited the resource. The point of the care plan is to learn stuff you don't already know. So the hope is that you will use your resources.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, so that's, I think, the reason why we've always stayed away from the Turnitin. But now I'm concerned that they're handing in each other's care plans, you know?
Well, yeah, that it will catch. But the one thing I would say, when we first started using Turnitin, I spoke to Lynn Domina, you all remember, who's not here anymore, unfortunately. And I asked her, I said, what's the percentage number that you think the student plagiarizes? Like, if it hits 20, do they get an F? And she's like, no, it just means you look at it. So if you see that number, 10, 20, whatever it is, it just means open it up and look at it, because if a student correctly cites, it still will say they got it from somewhere. Okay. So I think it's a trigger more than like a catch. You know, so I do think it would be helpful. And if you're okay with them quoting something and citing where they got it, Turnitin is not going to really get in your way. It just tells you that they did it. Okay. Can't believe I'm defending Turnitin, but there I just did it.
No, but it makes sense. Like, we always like, well, we won't bother doing that because it'll just keep popping up because they're pulling stuff out of books. Yeah. You know, the resource, which is the point of the care plan, is to get them to go do research.
Yeah.
And but there have been a couple of episodes lately where they're literally handing in each other's work.
Yeah.
And so that would literally come back in the 80s or 90s, I assume. And that would,
Yeah, because the first person to turn it in, it goes into the repository and turn it in headquarters, and the next person, it would show that they copied it. So yes, at least you'd see one of them, and then it would tell you where the other one came from.
okay. And
So
so
it would work.
when someone turns it in to turn it in, this is where I'm not sure, because I haven't used it in a number of years. They turn it in to turn it in, and then they get a report back, and then they turn it in to me after, or do they turn it in to turn it in and I grade it from there?
Nope. Once they submit it in the turn it in assignment in your class, that's it. If they copied, they're caught, or you can catch them, I should say. They can't go and fix it. Now, some people, some of the BSN courses have, they call them discussion checkers as turn it in. A student can submit a document just to make sure they weren't copying or they're quoting properly, and then they can submit it in the real one. So that's a way to use that. But in a regular assignment, once they turn it in, you can see if they copied.
So I don't want a separate submission box than the turn it in box. So I'll have the turn it in submission, box. And then I don't have a separate one. I just have that one, the turn it in one. And I grade right from there. I guess that's what I need to practice.
Yeah, I mean, if you use turn it in, you can grade from turn it in, and it shows up in your grade book just like the assignment. It's a little different, and it has a lot more options, but you can just use a simple way of doing it. But like I said, once the student submits, unless you allow them to resubmit, which you can do, but then it gets a little complicated because turn it in says they were cheating and now they're not. Once they submit, you see if turn it in says they cheated. And again, just because turn it in says it doesn't mean it's true. It just means look at it.
So what would you suggest? Should I have should I go to my fall class and ask someone to, how could I practice? What does it look like that turn it in when someone submits it as instructor? What's it look like? And does it pop? I guess
I'll tell you what, Bridget, I'd be happy to do this. After we're done here, I'll put you in my fake class here, and I'll send you the link, and I'll show you what it looks like, so you can see if it works for you.
Perfect.
Cool. And anyone else too, of course. Anything else, folks? I appreciate you spending some time with us. Always fun seeing everybody. Erica, we're good? Uh-oh, did we lose her? All right, I'm going to say then we're good. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great day, and see you all hopefully soon, whenever. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.